And good afternoon, LinkedIn, Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, wherever you're watching this, Facebook Live. I'm delighted to be joined by Becky Peters, who's my latest guest on Lunchtime Learnings. Becky is Director of Myers Estate Agent at the Wimborne, Corfe, Mullen and at Broadstone, looking after all those areas. So welcome, Becky. Thanks very much for coming on. Really grateful because I know you're really busy and you've got a lot on, as we were just discussing off air. So thank you for coming on. So tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because you've got a very interesting story that I think will help and inspire loads of listeners.
So in terms of how I started my franchise, or?
Yeah, how did you start? No, let's go back a little. So how did you get into property in the first place?
Okay, so when I was leaving school, I actually wanted to be in the police.
Okay.
But they weren't recruiting. So I ended up, my dad was a builder, a bricklayer. So I'd spent a lot of time around houses and I didn't really want to be a builder. So I ended up taking a trainee job in an estate agency in the local town, just until I thought the police might start recruiting was the plan. But that was in 2006, so a while ago. Okay.
And so which agency, are you allowed to share which agency you went to and how long you were there?
I don't mind. Yeah, it's a large independent agency in Dorset, so it's Goadsby.
Yeah.
And
okay,
yeah,
so
I
you
was
started
there.
off as a trainee, and I think you ended up being there 14 years.
Yeah, absolutely. 14 years, 2 children. Yeah, I was there for, and getting married. I was there for the lot. So.
Blimey. So you started as a trainee, and then I think you ended up as a branch manager.
Yeah, absolutely. So because they had a lot of offices, you also did go to different places all the time. So with progression came moving to a different office. And yeah, I was a manager of a couple of offices in my time, then had children and took a back step, went semi-time almost, just did more like sales progression or just viewings, that kind of thing that worked around the children. So it worked really well, to be fair. And I was very grateful of being able to continue working, but with a bit of flexibility.
Okay, brilliant. And then you made a very brave decision in September 2020, which I think is COVID time, to set up your own business. Yeah, so there was a number of things as to why, COVID being one of them, but essentially my daughter was starting school, my youngest daughter was starting school in that September. So it was always my aim to either go back full time and try and progress my career further where I was, or you know, I was always looking at opportunities, whether that be a business opportunity and starting up a jacket potato company or whatever it might be. I just loved working hard. And so I just was always looking. Sadly, in the December before COVID, my dad passed away really, really suddenly. And it just made me realign all my thoughts. And he just used to say that I worked too hard for someone else. So it just got in my mind. COVID came and I was sat at home a lot with the kids, which was great. You know, I was furloughed. That's amazing. But I got bored and I was like, I just don't know what I want to do. So I explored options. Jack potatoes weren't for me. I do love houses. So I just looked into it, and the rest is history. I had looked into it for a couple of years, to be fair, but it just felt like the time was absolutely right. I'd had that break. I was not loyal to customers. I had that clean kind of start if I wanted to. So I just took the plunge, remortgaged, and off I went. Wow. Okay. Well, look, sorry about your dad.
Oh, no, it's right.
I know, you know, similar my story. When Sam sadly got cancer the first time, I worked part-time for 9 months, and you definitely reevaluate and you look at things in a very, very different way. And sometimes you make decisions, and very brave decisions. And, you know, I'm sure your dad is going to be looking down from above and absolutely really proud of everything you're doing and everything you've achieved.
Probably saying I'm still working too hard.
Probably. Well, look, there's loads of things that you mentioned there. And what I want to try and do is break them down, if that's okay, and then come back to it. So, you know, thank you for sharing that, because I know obviously that's tough. you know, to lose your dad. And again, I've been in a similar position, lost my dad at 23. So I can totally understand and empathise with you. Let's go back to being a trainee. In fact, let's go back, because I think maybe there's a lesson when the police weren't recruiting at the time. So, you know, how did you feel about that? And then how did you change your mindset that you couldn't get in? Because that must have been quite painful.
Yeah, I mean, it was something I wanted to do because I just like a day to be different. I get bored quite easily. So I felt that that career would be helping people, having a different day every day, but also having a structure. So that's why I felt that that would be good for me. I'm also quite like active. So everything worked in my mind that that would be right. And then everything changed. I did have another little job, which was more in a gym. But again, it was very customer facing. You know, I loved helping people. So when what I saw as a proper career come up locally, and with my dad's background of being a builder, and I just kind of knew a bit about houses, I just thought, oh, that might work, you know, just for now. So that's how it came about. And yeah.
Okay, so then starting as a trainee, going to a branch manager, you must have faced loads of different challenges over those course of those 14 years. What lessons did you learn moving up from trainee to branch manager?
I think some agents are very target driven. So I think if you hit targets and if you were seen to be, you know, doing what you were meant to be doing, then you were progressed. And I think that, but it didn't come without pushing. You had to put yourself forward. You had to always say, I want to do this, because they don't always expect you want to. There's a lot of strong people in estate agency and branches. There's a lot of strong characters that don't ever move office. So it was always then you had to go to a different office in order to progress. And I guess the difficulty was I liked to sell where I knew and where I liked, rather than being put to a different part of Dorset, which I didn't know anything about and I didn't have any connection with sometimes. So you were almost starting again every time that you moved office. I was lucky to spend 7 years in one office, which was great. And that's when that office really kind of got to maybe one of the top ones. Then I had children, etc., etc. So then I was just where I was available, really.
Okay. So what did you do to get yourself top in that particular office?
What did I do to get that office to the top? I think, well, we worked a lot of hours, I would say. So we did do a lot, but it was also, and thinking back, I tried to think why, but I probably didn't realize what I was doing, but I was part of the community. Like Barry used to come in and get his paper. He'd always have a chat with me. I'd then walk down the street and I'd see someone else. And I was just known rather than just, and I think back and again, this is probably why I thought it doesn't matter if I work for a company or for myself. You go out on a evaluation and you'd sit there and they'd had 5 others. And then they go, yes, Becky, I want to go with you. And then they go, oh yeah, what agency are you from? So it was not about where I worked. It was about me. And I think that's probably when I started to think more about maybe I could do this for myself.
Okay. So that's a really big point, that personal brand. Yeah. And also being a part of a community. So obviously setting up the Myers franchise in Wimborne, Corfe, Mullen and Broadstone, you know, what have you done to be part of the community?
It's so much easier to sell where you live, I think, because you do know people. And I think people are everything. And if you've got one person that's got your back, then the next person that says, why don't you just call Becky? Personal recommendation is everything. I am a mum, obviously, at a school. I do go and do the litter picking. I have been part of helping to organise a free fun day, you know, for the local community. So, but that's great because I love that feeling of I've got a bit of time and a bit of money maybe, or whatever it might be, to put into it, just giving back to people. But I think that's how I got things started. Just one person giving me a chance, and then it kind of goes from there, really.
Okay, so I love that. One person giving you a chance. So what did you say to that first person to give you that chance? Where did that come from? Because there's going to be people here that are thinking actually similar to you. You know, maybe I'm going to be brave enough to set up on my own. And you could argue, you know, setting up in COVID at the start when people really didn't know what was going on was a pretty scary proposition.
Hit or miss, yeah, it could have gone one way or another, really. So So what I did firstly was I looked at all the properties that had been on the market for a long time, because they're probably the only ones that I felt might give me a chance, because they had been on for so long. They might give me the time of day to go and sit in front of them. So I did some, I'm not a door knocker, you know, I have to admit I'm not a door knocker. And I did get told to do social media, which I did set up and do. But I was just writing to people with a very personal letter, having looked at their details and tried to say, why don't we have a chat, basically. I didn't want to put everything in the letter, but I did make it personal to that property because I had the time. I didn't have any properties on the market. So, and one fantastic lady who owned a property that had been on the market a long time, she also was a lady in business. And I think when I sat with her and I told her honestly what I was trying to do, I think she just went, yeah, you know, you can. And we sold it. And we sold it. And then she was my biggest advocate. And honestly, to this day, she still comments on my posts. She's amazing. Michelle, you're amazing. So yeah, I think you do. You just sometimes need that.
Look, I think that you've made two fantastic points: personal recommendation, and then giving somebody. And you know, you talk about you love helping people, so you've solved that Michelle's problem. It was sticking on the market for a long time. You've gone in, you come in with suggestions, you've helped her move to the next chapter of her life, and then what you've done is you created that raving fan. And that's a massive lesson there, because I know there's going to be a lot of people out here that are maybe watching and they're thinking, do you know what? And I understand that there are fewer buyers than there were over COVID, where everybody wanted to buy, every agent was inundated with calls. And I mean this respectfully, but they most probably weren't treated the right way, because there were, 10, 15, 20 offers on every property if they didn't buy. But now there are fewer buyers out there. And I think this is a year of being a matchmaker, a deal maker. And actually one of the ways of finding properties is to go to your raving fans and say, Becky, I wonder if you can help me. I've got a lovely lady, Michelle, who's looking to buy a property in Corfe, Mullen. This is what they're looking for. Can I ask you, do you have any friends, family, colleagues or neighbours that have failed to sell their property in the last year that I can help? Is there anybody that you can help? And, Michelle, by the sounds of things, it's because she's been such a raving fan, has been incredible. Now, you can tell this podcast is live because my dog needs to go out. So I will give you 1 second. What is that? You share. You carry on talking. There you go. There you go. So back again. Nothing like having Chewy wanting to go out. Makes it more real, doesn't it? So the personal recommendations for raving fans, for low-hanging fruit, that's gold. Anything else you would suggest for somebody starting on their own, being brave enough to make that decision?
One thing I also wanted to do was be different, because there was nothing wrong with being in a high street estate agency at all, and it's a good basis and it's a good grounding. You get the structure, the processes, and that's all great. But you're not got a lot of USPs. You're not different really, other than your personality. You're not different to anyone else in what you offer. So I would say just make yourself available. People know me before I go to that valuation, because I am on social media. I do put some vulnerable posts out there about my personal life in small parts, but also I hate going in front of the camera. It's not normally about a filter or something like that. So, but I've done it, and I've just kind of been different to other agents, and hopefully I think that has helped in some ways as well. So when I go on a valuation, they're like, "Oh, hi, Becky," like they do know who I am, and even in coffee shops, and I'm like, "Oh, hi," and they go, "Oh no, you've not met me. Sorry, I just know you." So
100%. I remember 4 years ago, Luke and I were out in Australia, and it was 11 o'clock in the evening on the Gold Coast, and somebody came up, he goes, "Hello, Luke, how are you?" And that wasn't a very good Australian accent, by the way. And Luke had absolutely no idea who he was. And he said, "Oh, do you know what? I've been listening to you, watching you, seeing everything you do. That's the other side of the world." So here's what fascinates me. And actually, you were getting really honest. You found it uncomfortable. You find it uncomfortable being in front of a camera. What made you do it, though? because there are so many people watching or listening to this that understand that, acknowledge it, accept it, but still don't do it. So what made you actually, you know, have get out your comfort zone and just do it?
Because we had training with yourself, we had training with Mark Meyer, who owns Myers, and he's not that everyone in the franchise does it, but it was one of the ideas that I just thought, this is so current, like this is so new to this area especially, and I didn't want to do it. I probably did about 15 takes, and I was just like, oh God. But I just thought, what's the worst that can happen? You know, like so I did. And then from then on, it just became easier. Like now I don't think about it too much. Can't say it's easy, but it got easier. And I'm trying to help Lucy, who now works with me. Like she's like, oh, I don't know, I don't like it. Like, and I was like, but who cares about this the most, you or the people watching? Like, so it's only you that care about how you feel you are looking on this. And it's just more vulnerable and real if you don't edit it so much that it looks like you're reading from a script. So we're just trying to do that at the moment.
Okay. And again, you know, another way of thinking about it is, would you rather speak to 10 people in an hour, or would you rather your face get seen by 10,000 people in an hour? You know, yeah. And I know what I would rather do, but I also understand it is very hard to do it. But again, you know, practice makes it easier. And the more times you do it, and I know a good friend, Michelle Gallagher, and I'm sure, Michelle, if you're listening, you don't mind, or hopefully you let me know, but Michelle's early videos to where they are today, Michelle has kindly sent me. And if Michelle gives me consent, I'll happily send those to anybody who listens and wants to see where Michelle was when she first started and where she is today. And it is very, very different. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, you know. So, you know, do I like speaking? No. Do I like doing these? Well, I want to add value, but, you know, again, it's challenging, and I get nervous every time. So, yeah. And look at me, I've got no hair and they're all very grey. So,
I do remember one though. I do remember posting one, and it was a massive learning curve. I used to video houses, but looking at me. So we go around the house going, oh, hi, this is the house. And I'd be going around like this. And someone said, I don't want to see you. I want to see the house on my video. And I was like, oh, sugar. And so from then on, I just did an intro, and then I showed the house. so yeah.
And that's the thing, you know, these are all lessons that you pick up along the way. And, you know, everybody, you know, I've come across fail. So first attempt in learning, and that's all it is. You know, and if you look at every successful person out there, you know, everybody fails. But if you don't do it, if you don't take the shots, you're never going to score. So you've got to attempt it, you've got to do it, and fair play. So you've gone from starting with nothing. Mm-hmm. So how's your first, well, we're almost in year 3 now. So how's it been? How have you found it? And what have you learned in those 3 years, about from, you know, the community stuff and videos? Anything else that you can share with people, please?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 months, which was September to December, is obviously quite a hard time when you've got no income coming in and you're just getting a few properties on. Luckily, it was a fair enough market that with the right marketing, they were getting offers and things. So that was great. But it was kind of a time of, oh, is this actually going to happen? You know, and then it becomes worrying. But the good thing was, I didn't want to be market leader. I didn't want to have the biggest market share. I couldn't really care about that, as long as I was doing a really good job and also covering my costs, but, you know, did what I needed to do. And then in the end could see that I would make some good money from it. Then, you know, that's what I was doing it for. And the balance of being able to pick up my children when I needed to from school or whatever it had to be. But yeah, so in the first, because it was September to September, I think completed on, I think it was 25 properties. So, you know, in our area, they're big properties, some of these, and some of them didn't come without some trouble, because we had stamp duty and all the rest of it going on, obviously. Then year 2, I think it was 40.
Well done.
And so now we're going into year 3. So in total, I know that we've done over 80 completions. And yeah, I remember every single one of them. Like, I could honestly say I remember everyone, every person, and I hope everyone can remember me in a positive way as well. So, yeah.
I'm sure they will. So we've got Jade here who's saying it's completely relatable. So it's come up on my comment. So Jade, thank you very much for watching today and for commenting. Appreciate it. So there's a couple of things that you come up with there. You talked about overcoming worries. So how do you overcome those worries? You know, have you got a technique? Is there a trigger that you use, again, that may help people listening or watching?
You just have to remember your own targets. Like, I think you always, within me, I'm a competitive person by nature. You always want to be, you know, seen to be getting the best and the most and this, but you have to just go, I have to keep going back to my own targets, that I don't need to be, you know, when you get the right move alerts come through, sorry, saying right move, but the alerts coming through saying there's 21 listed in BH21 today, and you've only listed 1 or 2. And I'm like, oh, that's great. You know, I don't need to be listing 21, and some of them are reductions anyway at the moment. So I just have to always just take myself back and think, I don't need to be doing that. Am I still getting my targets? If I'm not, what shall we do? And how do we just go back to basics sometimes? And that's how I try to manage things, because you can always reach for the stars, and obviously you always want to improve and get more sales, etc. But also, again, another thing I don't want is to be oversubscribed. Like, I don't want to have too many properties that I can't continue the service, which is what we're kind of known for. So yeah, that's something I have to always rein myself back and just think, no, you're doing great, don't worry about it. So
okay, great. And then you talked about you've got 2 lovely children. Juggling the time, you know, how do you manage to juggle a very successful business with juggling to being a mum as well, being at the schools to pick them up and taking them to schools, plus all the other loads of stuff that gets done. So
yeah. I mean, I have a good routine. Without a routine of knowing where things need to be, it wouldn't happen. I have to be honest, I'm also a single mum, although they go to their dad, so semi part-time as well. So that's a good and a bad thing, I guess, because I do get longer days sometimes, but shorter days others. So I just need to know when I'm available for them and give them that time. And then if I need to then pick up my laptop at 8 o'clock and do a couple of hours because I spent 2 hours with them between 3 and 5, then I will do that. So and I don't feel bad then that I've missed out on them or vice versa. But it is a struggle, because I probably put myself last, I would say. So my own personal time at times I feel is a struggle, but that's why I then employed someone to come in with me, so that I don't have to work every Saturday, work every single day. I know that I've got backup. And it's invaluable, absolutely invaluable to have that, I think. Otherwise you would burn out. You can get addicted to selling and just being successful, and sometimes you have to put yourself in a little bit of the forefront as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you managed to switch off.
I play netball. So I know that I've got those evenings that I can't put on the laptop because I'm out at netball, or, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, I've got other things, but that's probably the only time.
So again, that must have been quite scary, employing somebody to help you. So how have you found that, and what lessons have you learned from that?
So because when you run your own business, and especially me, you become a bit of a perfectionist. You just want everything to be your way, which if you didn't employ the right person, you probably drive them insane. But it's like I say, I had to have that balance, because otherwise I would be working non-stop because of my personality. So I found that having them on and just letting them be themselves, because it's important. She needs to be her person. She has to be like me. Like I want her to have her own brand and almost not need me, but be with me. But bringing her on, again, you just have to look at your targets, and is she bringing you what you need in relation to what is being paid? Absolutely, because I need my time. So it's definitely was worth it for me.
And you mentioned targets a couple of times. So how do you look at whether you're on track or off track, or how often are you reviewing it, and what targets do you set yourself?
Set quarterly targets in terms of what my instruction levels, valuations, and then, like, I know my average fee. etc., etc. I don't target on viewings because I think that that is not something I personally like to focus on. But as long as we're taking on the right amount of properties and I know roughly what we're selling every quarter, I would just have another look at it and see the market's changing all the time. Are we going to have to take on more properties now because they're not selling instantly? Like before, you list a property, it was sold. Now, list a property, going back to old estate agency, we're going to have to work a little bit now, you know, and the sales progression is actually a bit easier than what it was because the solicitors are not as inundated. So it's actually just switching a bit.
Okay. So you've mentioned hard work a lot throughout this.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, that's one thing that's made you an exceptional top performer. What other qualities do you think you need to be a top performer?
Being honest and transparent, like just being a real person. If I meet someone for the first time and they go, "Oh, what do you do?" And you almost cringe when you say I'm an estate agent because people are like, "Oh, you know," like I was like, "But no, I'm an honest estate agent." And they go, "Yeah, of course you are." But I honestly am. Like, I just think that, and that probably comes across, I think, when I'm meeting people because I am just very normal. But also I know what I'm talking about. So if they want to have a serious conversation, I can have that. But I feel like I am a local, let's say this word, local property expert. So, but I know the local area. So if someone has a question, they'll just come to me, just ask me, and I'll give them time. You know, that's what I give them as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. So for your self-development, what do you do to learn? Do you recommend any podcasts, any books that you've read recently?
Yeah, I need to spend more time with books, but I don't. Maybe I need to do some audio or something. But podcasts, absolutely. I was just literally, I do watch your learning, Stephen. On
thank you. At least I know I've got one viewer, and obviously we got Jay today, so we got two. So yeah, that's a start.
There we go. The world class agency, I think it is.
Yeah, Mark and Sam, they're very good.
Yeah, and yourself, when was the last one you did on there?
With Mark and
no,
Sam.
but the Estate Agents podcast.
No, the Estate Agents podcast. Yes, that was a while. No, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Because I always look for new ones, and I'm like, oh, there isn't one, Stephen. So.
It's been a while. We need to get back on that bicycle again. Yes. Definitely. Yes. So thank you for the reminder, Luke. If you're watching,
I do listen to some Australian ones. I do listen to some of the Australian ones as well, because they're obviously different marketplace, but equally they're probably a bit ahead in some of these thinkings, I would say. And so it's just getting new ideas and follow some of them on Instagram, that kind of thing. So.
Okay, so one of the things that I think my 2023 focus is going to be on is holding people accountable and implementing stuff. Yeah. And what was really interesting was one of my previous guests on the podcast, I don't know if you listened to it, a lady called Lara Morgan. And Lara made me go through hoops to get her on my podcast, which was a massive learning curve for me when it came to action and accountability. So we had a whole long conversation, and at the end she said, right, Stephen, I want you to send me an email, but it's got to be funny. So I sent her an email. Whether it was funny or not was debatable, but I think because I took action, she then came back 2 days later and said, yeah, I'll go on your podcast. Previously it was going to be, I'm going to go on your podcast, but it won't be to 2023. But because I actioned it, she said, right, I can go on next week. So there was a massive lesson there for me. So I'm testing people out now. If they want stuff, they've got to, they've got to take action and send me messages and stuff like that to see whether they actually want it or not. So it's interesting. So how do you take action? Who holds you accountable? And what's your implementation like?
Okay.
No pressure.
I am the most organized person, probably. I get what's needed done, and I have lists of things that I need to do, but I always prioritize. So I've always got some at the bottom that I should have probably already done. So I think that for me, to be held accountable, I do have now meetings with Mark, who's the main franchise owner. He's we're going to implement this a lot more for me, because it is something I do need to improve on, probably, if I'm honest. Just to give myself, again, it's probably more about personal stuff, like give myself more time, make sure that I'm doing this and that, you know, and not always put myself last. That's probably a personal thing. So we've set goals in terms of that, but also having the goal of why are we doing this? Like, why are we working? What is a personal goal on this? What's a business goal? What do you want to achieve by the end of the year? And they're things that we only discussed maybe last week. So I'm putting that list together. But I think when I first started, I had those goals and I hit those goals. So now it's like, well, what's your next goal? Because what are you working for? So
brilliant. So publicly, we're going to hold you accountable. What do you want us to hold you accountable on? There you go. That's a curveball.
I don't know. To take my day off.
Okay, there you go. That's a good one.
I've wrote it down.
Yeah. Good. What's that? A day off every day or a day off once a week?
Yeah. A day off once a week, like a day off in the week. If I work, basically, if we work the weekend, then we should have a day off in the week. That's our thing. So
thank you. Okay, so everybody, if you want to get hold of Becky, she's on Facebook, she's on Instagram, she's on LinkedIn. So we're all going to hold you accountable now. No excuses. Anyway, I'm really grateful for your time. So thank you very much. Thank you for being a wonderful guest. Thank you for sharing so much gold. I'm sure there's a lot there that you can, if people are starting, that they can learn from. If actually, I think one of the things you said about low-hanging fruit and how you started and how you got that first instruction is a massive, massive lesson, especially in this market with the amount of properties you talked about, prices being realigned and reduced. You know, there's a number of those. So fantastic. Jade, thank you so much for your kind words and for watching it to the end. I think you deserve a medal, so thank you.
Well done.
Becky, thank you very much.
Thanks,
lovely speaking to you. And if people want to get hold of you or find you, where can they do that, please?
Everywhere. No, I won't give my address out. So Becky Peters on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere you like.
Brilliant. And then we've got, amazing lady, be proud of your journey. Oh. There you go. Simon, thank you very much for watching as well. Much appreciated. And everybody have a good week, month, year, whenever you listen to it. And thanks very much for tuning in. We appreciate it. Have a good one. Bye. And thank you, Becky.